Are you thinking about growing your business? I mean, really growing. What if I told you there's a huge, vibrant market in Latin America just waiting for products like yours? Well, today, we are laying out the complete roadmap for Bangladeshi businesses who are ready to make a move into Brazil. Let's jump right in.
First things first, let's just talk about the sheer scale of this thing. We're not talking about a small niche market. We're talking about an economy worth almost $2.2 trillion. That number right there, that's the size of the prize. It is an absolute consumer powerhouse, and it's open for business.
So why Brazil? What makes it so special? Well, aside from that gigantic economy, you've got over 200 million potential customers. And it's not just about Brazil. It's also a member of the Mercosur trade bloc, which means it's your gateway to neighboring countries too. The opportunities are incredibly diverse, from agriculture all the way to high-tech manufacturing.
Okay, let's say you're sold on the idea. You see the potential, but where on earth do you begin? The very first practical step on this whole journey is getting your company officially set up and registered. This is the foundation, the starting line for everything else you're going to do.
Now, I know what you're thinking. This looks like a lot of bureaucracy, right? But think of it as a simple 5-step path. First, you pick your legal structure. Most small and medium businesses go for what's called an LTDA, which is great for liability protection. Then you reserve your company name. You file your documents to get your federal tax ID. That's called the CNPJ, and it's basically your company's official identity. And finally, you get your state and local licenses. You check off these 5 boxes, and boom, you are officially in business in Brazil.
So, how long does all that take? This is where you really need to be patient and plan ahead. On average, you're looking at about 60 to 90 days just to get the formal incorporation done. And here's a pro tip. That timeline doesn't even include opening a corporate bank account, which can take a while on its own. So make sure you build that extra time into your launch plan.
And listen up, because this next part is absolutely crucial. You can't miss this. Any foreign owner, any foreign director involved in the business, you must get a personal Brazilian tax ID number. It's called a CPF. This is not optional. It is a fundamental, non-negotiable requirement to operate legally in the country.
All right, let's dive into everyone's favorite topic, taxes. Look, Brazil's tax system has a reputation for being complicated, and honestly, it is. But it's not this impossible monster. It's totally manageable, as long as you understand all the different moving parts.
So the big headline number you'll hear is the 34% corporate profit tax. But that's not just one single tax. It's actually made up of 2 different things. A 25% income tax, known as IRPJ, and then a 9% social contribution tax, the CSLL. Together, they make up that 34%.
But wait, that's just the tax on your profits. On top of that, there are other social contribution taxes, called PIS and COFINS. And these are calculated on your company's total revenue. They add up to 9.25%, and that's a really important detail because it means this is a tax you have to pay even before you're profitable.
And we're not done yet. If you're selling physical goods, you'll also have to pay a state-level value-added tax, which is called ICMS. This usually adds another 17 to 18%, and the exact rate just depends on which state your business is in.
So what happens if you're selling services instead of goods? Well, then you'll be dealing with a municipal level service tax called ISS. The good news is this one's a lot lower, generally falling somewhere between 2 and 5%.
Okay, I get it. That is a lot of different taxes to keep track of. But here is the good news, especially for small and medium-sized enterprises. If your annual revenue is under 4.8 million Brazilian reais, you can opt into a much simpler system called Simples Nacional. And just look at the difference here. Instead of juggling all those taxes individually, this system rolls them all up into one single monthly payment. For a small business, this is an absolute game changer. It just cuts down the complexity so much.
So, you're all set up, you've got a handle on the taxes, but how do you actually get your products from a factory in Bangladesh all the way to a customer in Brazil? That brings us to the whole world of importing.
You're going to hear this one term over and over again, SIS COMEX. So what is it? It's the Brazilian government's mandatory all-in-one online system for foreign trade. It's not a choice. Every single import, every single export has to be registered and managed through this one portal.
So what does using SysComex mean in practice? Well, it means every shipment has a clear process. First, you have to get an import license, known as radar. Then, if you're importing something like food or medicine, you might need pre-approval from other government agencies. Then, when your goods arrive at customs, you'll pay all the required taxes. And you have to make sure every single item is classified with the right customs code. Now, when you add up all those different taxes and duties at the border, you've got import duty, you've got IPI, PIS/COFINS, ICMS, the total hit can be pretty significant. We're talking about an extra 40 to 60%, sometimes even more, added to the value of your goods. This is a massive number that you absolutely have to build into your pricing strategy from day one.
All right, deep breath. Your company is registered, you understand the taxes, your products have cleared customs. Now we get to the fun part. How do you actually get your products into the hands of Brazilian customers? Let's talk about distribution. Brazil gives you a ton of options. You've got the modern channels, like trying to get your products onto the shelves of huge supermarket chains. You can work with regional distributors who know their local markets inside and out. Or you can go digital on massive e-commerce sites like Mercado Libre, which is huge in Latin America. And then you have more traditional routes, like franchising or tapping into the incredible network of wholesale markets.
And just to help you wrap your head around the scale of these wholesale markets, get this. Just one market in São Paulo, called CEAGESP, handles 280,000 tons of goods every single month. That's the kind of volume we're talking about. It's a whole separate ecosystem that supplies retailers all over the country. And this is super relevant for so many Bangladeshi businesses. There are entire city districts dedicated to specific products. If you're in the textile and apparel business, you go to the Bras district in São Paulo. That's the heart of the industry. For general merchandise, you go to a famous street called Rua 25 de Março. These are real, physical places where thousands of buyers for small shops go to stock up.
Wow, we have covered a lot of ground, from the legal stuff all the way to sales channels. So let's bring it all home. Let's put together a final launchpad, a checklist of the key things you need to remember as you get ready to enter the Brazilian market.
So here it is, your final checklist. Number 1, be patient and prepare for that multi-step registration process. 2, plan and budget carefully for Brazil's complex taxes. 3, get comfortable with the Cisco Max import system. You're going to be using it a lot. 4, do your homework and pick the right sales channel for your specific product. And finally, and this might be the most important tip of all, partner with local experts. Don't try to do this all by yourself. Find people on the ground who really know the culture and the regulation.
Look, the journey to enter Brazil definitely takes preparation and hard work. There's no doubt about it. But the reward? The reward is access to one of the biggest, most exciting consumer markets on the entire planet. The opportunity is there, the roadmap is clear. So the only real question left is, are you ready to meet your next 200 million customers?